tree. Or going up the edge. Go on either of those adventures today. Hold on to your britches.
Yes.
Here we go. Okay. Now we're free. Watching for a break in the traffic here. Okay. We're going to take Old Glacier Highway back to downtown for part of it. We'll just look around this corner. We're actually going to go past the location of our only Walmart. Now, the Walmart did go out of business because basically when they tried to build a Walmart here, the other grocery stores essentially lobbied with the town, and they got the locals to come to this agreement basically that the Walmart would not be allowed to carry groceries. A grocery store with no groceries, right? So I don't know what they sold, but whatever it was, it wasn't enough, and they went out of business. And so it's a U-Haul now. We're going to go past it up ahead on the right. What kind of a funny day. We had a little bit of rain there. Now it's stopped. It's kind of wild the way the mountains just chop up our weather here, so it's hard to predict. And then downtown gets about 30 more inches of rain than we do up here. We get about 60 inches of rain right here, and then 2 miles that way they get 90. It's crazy. It's a huge difference. Okay, I'm gonna run my defroster full blast up here, and that means I can't hear you as well. So we'll just have to be friends now. Okay. Perusing. Yep. So from here, it's about from this point about 10 minutes till we get downtown. Now, let's see. I forget if we already talked about it. What time is the all aboard for the coning stamp today?
10 p.m.
10 p.m. All right. So you got lots of time. Good. It's only 6. We'll get you back for dinner reservations and then send you all on your merry way. Oh, good. Okay. Let's see. We talked about Bruce the Moose. We talked about the Christian Bear. I have another Juneau-related joke for you, but it's really bad. Is that okay? You want to hear it? Yeah. Is it possible to get worse? Hey, you want to go right in the back now? I don't think I'll want you up front now. So, it is possible, yes. This is the worst of the bunch. Now, in Juneau, we have a lot of whales, especially humpback whales, but we get killer whales, orcas, occasionally they'll come passing through. In fact, Juneau's kind of a unique part of the world in that we have a humpback whale pod that never leaves. They stay here all year round, rather than going and traveling around like a lot of the other pods do. So, that means that you can generally see whales in this area. So, in your comings and goings here, especially in this part of Southeast Alaska, just keep your eyes peeled, especially as you're out in the channels. You never know what you might see. So, of course, now we get to the joke part. 2 whales swam into a bar, and the first one said, and then the second whale said, "Go home, Frank, you're drunk." Well, there you go. There's my second one. Okay. All right. So, actually, you guys had a good view of the airport, right? Were you able to see it from up top? You know, that airport actually has a world record. Now, I've told you a lot of jokes, and I've pulled your leg once or twice. Hey, that's a bald eagle right there in front of us. You can just barely see it. Yeah, he's sitting right there on that light post. Now I've got a totally true, not at all made up, God's honest true story for you. Now, here's what happened. On March 30th, 1987, an Alaskan Airlines Boeing 737 was taking off from that airport, and they were headed basically right over where we are. And now they were headed north up the coast towards the Yakutat. Oh, by the way, this is one of those old-fashioned 737s that would keep the doors and the windows on for the whole flight, instead of the convertibles they've had up here lately. If you've heard about those fiascos. But anyway, so they were taking off when the flight crew, the pilot and the co-pilot, noticed there was this speck in the air in front of them, and it wasn't moving, which means it's coming right at them, right? And so they see as it gets closer, it's a bald eagle, and it's carrying something long and skinny in its talons, and then it gets aiming closer, and then it drops the thing it's carrying, and it swoops to the side, and then there's a big thump. So this is all very bad, and they're going through all the instruments in the cluster. They're trying to make sure the plane's okay, and the instruments say the plane is okay. So they decide they press on, they land in Yakutat, and they get out and do an inspection of the outside of the plane. And there on the nose, they find what we could describe as windshield sushi. There is a huge greasy fish spot on the front of the plane. So, of course, they take a couple days, they get all their ducks in a row, and then they issue a statement in the local paper, the Juneau Empire, or as everybody calls it, the Juneau Vampire, because it sucks the life out of you. And so this article comes out, 2 days after March 30th, and it says that during takeoff, this plane came face to face with a bald eagle carrying a large salmon. And of course, when a bird meets a bird going through the air, there's another bald eagle. I think this one's a juvenile because he's got a brown head. So when a bird meets a bird going through the air, the law of the jungle applies. The bigger bird gets to keep the fish. So the bald eagle took one look at the jet and decided that he'd been beat. So he dropped the fish and went on his way unharmed. The plane, however, did strike the fish. The exact species of salmon was never known, but the fish was presumed dead. And then, of course, there was just one problem. What's 2 days after March 30th? April Fool's Day! So nobody believed this story. So for weeks afterward, they're going back and forth, and the pilots were saying things like, oh yeah, this kind of stuff happens in Alaska. We know people who've hit bears, deer, moose with their airplanes. We personally have probably hit every kind of bird in the course of our careers. But the problem was nobody had ever before hit a fish. Ever, right? I had ever since. A fish with an airliner. And so nobody in town believed the story. Nobody in the world believed the story. Until finally Alaskan Airlines, they kind of put their money where their mouth is. What they did is they took the jet that hit the fish and they gave it a new paint job. And they painted a gigantic king salmon down both sides of that jet from nose to tail. And then they renamed that plane the Salmon 30 Salmon. Yep. Now that's God's honest truth. You can Google it right now, and I can corroborate the details. In fact, they have kept a plane in that fleet ever since that is the Salmon 30 Salmon. Eventually, the original had to be retired, of course, and so they replaced it, and then that one needed to be retired decades later. So we're currently on the Salmon 30 Salmon Mark III. And in addition to the big fish, it's also got some wonderful Native American artwork on the sides of it. And so if you see a really funkily looking Alaskan Airlines bird that comes landing at the airport, now you know that's the Salmon 30 Salmon. Because way back when, a plane hit a fish in Juneau. We've got a really nice view of this downtown coming up here. So the right-hand side is Douglas Island, right? Now the tallest mountain on Douglas Island is Bradley Peak, and we can see it. So if this is 12 o'clock, it's at about 1 o'clock. It's that big stony peak that's still kind of wreathed in the clouds, and it's got a little spot of snow on top. Now, because it's the tallest mountain on Douglas Island, everybody calls it Jumbo. It's a wonderful hike, great view from all around. And then, this mountain on the left, this one was Mount Juneau, and then ahead of us is Mount Roberts. And that those three combined with, it was Thunder Mountain by the glacier, and Mount McGinnis, the big tall one on the left-hand side of the glacier, are what everybody calls the Big Five. Generally, like folks who enjoy hiking will try to hike all 5 of those mountains each summer. And they range in height from about 32,000, that's Jumbo, to about 4,200 and that's Mount McGinnis, the one on the left-hand side of the glacier. And so just lots of hikers, folks enjoy it. Now this is the beginning of the Circle of Life, right? Here's the high school on the left-hand side, University of Alaska Southeast on the right. And then as we come up to this intersection, we're actually going to begin passing all 50 state flags. And so on the left-hand side is the Alaska state flag, and then the rest of them ahead of us. I used to think it was alphabetical, but then some very astute observer pointed out that California comes before Arizona, so that can't be alphabetical. And so I have no idea what order they're in. Maybe it's just order of governor's favorite states in descending order. I have no idea. But do you guys know the story of the Alaskan state flag? Has anybody heard it? Well, it's a very inspiring story, and it's kind of quintessentially Alaskan. In 1929, 30 years before Alaska became a state, Alaska was just a territory, and so they didn't have like voting representation in Congress. It made life just a little bit more inconvenient out here, and the populations were lower. It was kind of a rougher time in Alaskan history, and up to that point, since the Seward Purchase in the 1800s, there had been no flag flown up here other than the flag of the United States of America. But in 1929, the territorial governor, George S. Parks, had this idea that if there was an Alaskan state flag, that would kind of help weld this huge region together into one cohesive identity of being Alaskan, because that was something they struggled with. And so he put out a contest to the kids. It was for middle schoolers and high schoolers, secondary students, to design this territorial flag. And so the contest went out, and there was a winner. His name was Benny Benson. He was 13 years old. We're going to go ahead and go on through. And now his story is where we get into the heart of what it is to be Alaskan. He had, in the years prior, lost his entire family. His mother was a Native American, and she had passed away from a disease that swept through their little fishing village. And then his father was not from this village. He was Swedish. And so he did not have that support structure to be able to help him to raise his kids by himself as a fisherman. And so he decided that the best thing to do was to split his family up. And so he sent Benny Benson to go live in an orphanage. And so Benny Benson designed this flag to kind of encapsulate what it meant to him to be an Alaskan. So that blue background represents the blue of the Alaskan skies and seas, or the blue of the forget-me-not flower. And that forget-me-not, it blooms all around Alaska throughout the summer. And that phrase, forget-me-not, was part of why he chose it, because it reminded him that he did still have family out there, and he couldn't be with them right now. And then to dominate the center of the flag, he chose that constellation that dominates the center of the night sky here, which is Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. Now the Great Bear was that symbol of strength that he related also with his Native American roots. And it was something that helped him keep courage, knowing that the rest of his family who was still alive would see that same constellation no matter where they were in Alaska. And then the last thing he put on the flag was the North Star, to symbolize that hope of future Alaskan statehood, to be the northernmost state in the United States, because of all the ways that would make life easier here in Alaska. And so when he submitted that explanation with the flag design to the committee that was doing the judging, they loved it. And so not only did he win and his flag design was chosen, but he also won a scholarship, and he was able to go on and do great things. And so his story ever since even has captured the heart of several Alaskans and conveyed what it really means to be an Alaskan. And so it's been the territorial flag and then the state flag ever since. I think it's a nice thing to end on. Just a little bit of something inspiring, you know. You're going through hard things, but you come out stronger on the other side. And now we're back to your home away from home. You are so welcome. Now, up ahead of us here,
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.